So, week 5 reflection. What happened this week? So, on Monday with Leanne, we did some screen acting and we did The Social Network. So, we did a scene from The Social Network with Mark Zuckerberg. And we did a scene where it was a boy and a girl and they're having a breakup and it's like set in like a bar. So we were all split into duos. I was with a girl called Lauren, and the way the shot is set is that one person is in front of the camera, so you can still see the person's head, but they're like in front of the camera, and the other person is in front of the camera as well, but you can see their face. So think of it like this: so the camera's here, one person's face is here, one person's head is here, and the other person's face is here. That's the kind of acting we're talking about. So they are both acting, but you can only see the face of one of them, which means the other person has to do acting from behind the head. Now, how did I find this? So we had our scripts, trying to find out the script, Me personally, I do need to work on the lines, because script lines are they're not my best. When I don't know the lines of a script, I feel like it can really impact my acting, but it is what it is, and, you just get through it, so that was one thing. But something I think I've done well, especially with Lauren, is that we do work quite well together, and also we actually did do what was I gonna say? Can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, but I remember something I did do quite well was acting quite well with the back of my head, which not a lot of people did in fact do. So if I was able to act with the back of my head, like show expressions, like even shaking a bit of your head, like moving forward or just being still, doing something with the back of your head, which I never knew, is just some form of acting, which is something I learned, and I'm grateful that I learned that. That was something that I'd done quite well in. That things I could have done better if I could have learned a few more of the lines. It was quite a long script, but I could have learned more of the lines. The American accent. Oh yeah, we have to do it in American accent. Oh my god, my voice was killing because I hate doing an American accent because it was quite a serious scene, but I can't take the American accent seriously at all. I think overall I was able to manage, but I need to work on my American accent. I just need to work on a lot of accents, to be honest, because it's just something I really need to work on. But it is what it is, and yeah. And that was what we did with Leanne, predominantly screen acting. Now, me personally, I acted behind, so I had to act more with the back of my head. I didn't have a chance to act face, which is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. We only had so much time, and you know what? Acting from the back of your head is definitely an experience I will definitely not be forgetting. Another thing as well is on Tuesday when we had Ryan, I'm pretty sure we just did a little bit of a lesson based on our monologues and how we can do our monologues. So the way it was set was we had chairs, okay? And this was tomorrow on Tuesday. We each gave a chair, like so, yeah? So we had our chairs down. I think I had 2 or 3. No, I had 2 chairs, I remember. So I had about 2 chairs, and the way it went was I used to talk my monologue, and every single time I had a different train of thought, or every single time there's punctuation, I went from chair to chair. So for example, from one chair, I used to go like, if I say a bit of my monologues, for example, straight, that means I would tap the chair, and then I go to the other chair. Do you know the strain I've been bearing months past, and then I go back to the previous chair? It's quite tough to explain, but it's more based on punctuation and our character's thought, like the difference our character thinks while going from chair to chair, and it was a nice kinesthetic way of kind of getting the lines down, kind of understanding what is your character actually saying in these times, really. And like it gives you a good understanding. It opens your eyes on about your character's train of thought, and which I found really nice. And I absolutely love Ryan's lessons. I always think they're absolutely I think they're absolutely unique, and he always finds a way to just shock us, and I absolutely love it. So that was the first thing we've done with Ryan on Tuesday, and we had Wednesdays off. Oh, I should probably say what I did well. So what went well for the Tuesday lesson, I'd say, when we did monologues. I was able to get a better view on my character about what he's talking about. Gave me a good feeling of my train of thought of character. And also me personally, I'm quite a kinesthetic person, so I did feel that I did learn quite well from it. Things I could have done better in that lesson particularly. On a Tuesday, what could have done better? Oh, I know something that could have done better. I could have done a lot better with like my power, my emotion, because I just kept tapping the chairs every time I spoke. I need to add more passion to it. I need to really emphasize it. For example, in my monologue, there's strain, and he says it with quite in a bellowing manner. So it goes strain. I could have really just emphasized my emotions, not emotions, with my motions when I did it. But it is what it is, and we always learn for next time. So we had Wednesdays off, and then on Thursday, what happened on Thursday? Oh yeah, I remember exactly what happened on Thursday. So on Thursday we had another level 4 workshop. I absolutely love that workshop. That workshop was top tier, may I tell you. It was absolutely top tier. I flipping love that workshop. So what happened? So we were given a scene, and 3 people in a scene, and I believe the characters were the character names, and there were 3 characters. One of the characters was called God, I need to remember. Okay, one of the characters is called Susie. One of the other characters is called Amy, and the other character is called, I think it's called Molly. Yeah, Molly. So there's Molly, there's Amy, and there's Susie. Bingo, those are the characters. So, and the whole plot, Molly and Amy are, so first things first, this is based in a secondary school. These people are about 16, 15 years old. And Molly and Amy have got like a little bit of a thing where they've got a little bit of a club where they help other students graduate because they're both quite smart. And Susie is and Susie wants to join this club. She wants to be like, oh, I do want to graduate high school, blah, 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 blah. I think it'll be quite good. However, Susie is a bit not okay in the head. She's got dementia, which I think she does have. But it's a very comedic scene because because I played the role of Susie, which my director, because there was 2 boys, 1 girl in my group instead of 3 girls. As there was 2 boys and 1 girl, we had to alter the names a bit. So for example, Susie became Sean and Molly became Miller. So that was something that we had to do. But yeah, my director was Kian in level 4, and he was a fantastic director. We kept going over and over again. So essentially what happened was we just did a quick read through 3 times which character suited which, and I did Susie, and thank God I did Susie, because, she's just a joke of she's just a joke of a character, and I'm more of a serious character. I'm more of a serious actor, not really a comedic actor, so it gave me a good understanding of what it's like to be a comedic actor, which I think is quite cool, to be honest. So it's essentially what happened after that. So we first did scene 3s, and then he was a brilliant director. He was like, oh, hang on a minute, let's do some different kinds of ways. So we did some talk, we did different kinds of movement, different kinds of frantic assembly, different kinds of movement within the scene, and then within the scene we just came up with different formats, like what was the layout going to be? Do we add any lighting? Do we add any expressions? Do we add any extra things that the script doesn't say? Because a lot of the stage directions in the script were actually blocked by the teachers, like we couldn't see the stage directions, and I thought that was a good thing because it made our directors think, okay, how can we do this? And it was very good. So as the role of Susie in the performance, I walk on stage. That was something Keaton, my director, did. Well, actually, no, it said that in the script. But we did decide to have it sitting down. He decided to have it sitting down. And he made some other things as well, like, what kind of character is Susie? Or Sean, as did it. So, the character of Susie, she has got dementia, so I had to kind of act as if I've got dementia, but I gotta be quite comedic with it. So I gotta be dozing off, I need to be like my 12-year-old self a bit, because my 12-year-old self, me personally, was they dozed off a lot, Their attention span weren't the best, okay? It really weren't the best. So, kind of had to embrace like an inner child in me and just be like, dozing a bit, have a bit of dementia, go, huh? Sorry, what happened? And that was the acting. And what went well, I think I worked really well with my group. I think the character I got was on point. I think I've done really, really well with that. EBI, I think, if I just need a script, like, line learning is one thing, but I want to give myself another EBI. I want to say another EBI I could have done was just a big mistake I make is that I did know half of the lines of the script, and something I did do is that for some part scenes I used to just go completely off script, and other scenes I had to be like, oh shit, get back on the script and read through it quickly. So that is something I really had to do as an EBI. But I think the best thing I could have done was just have the script in my hand the whole time. It would have just been easier, and it wouldn't have made an awkward phase of me just scrambling for my script at the last minute. So yeah, that is just a big mistake I made, but hey, it is what it is. I worked quite well, you know, with Kian and also with my group. And yeah, I was actually quite happy with that. So that is what happened on Thursday with the little workshop, and I think the performance in general went absolutely top tier. I think it was a brilliant performance, and yeah. So on Friday, what happened on Friday? So on Friday, it was a lesson with Ryan, and actually we done something very similar to what we did on Tuesday, where we spoke about monologues. However, Ryan decided actually to first things first, as it was a 4 hour long lesson we had. We had two lessons with Ryan, but on the same day. So what we did with Ryan, so the first thing we done with Ryan is that we did our monologues, but based on elements. So the 4 elements were fire, water, earth, and wind, I remember. So, and we had to do our monologues, or one of our 4 monologues, that we need to prepare for the end of the term. So we've got to do one of our 4 monologues, and essentially we have to, in a way, say our monologues, but corresponding to an element. So for example, something like fire is very big, it's very powerful, it's very So for example, like strain, haven't you known the strain I've been bearing months past? That's like something like fire. But for example, something like water is very watery. It's very in a way unstable, but very translucent. So for example, if it was something like water, I'd say something like strain. If you've been knowing the strain I've been bearing months past, or something like that. And then another thing was earth, where it felt very grounded. I really like the earth one, not only because it's my favourite element, but also when we had to do our monologue corresponding to the element of earth, it just felt very grounded, very much in control, at peace. Strain! If you knew the strain I had been bearing months past, I could really focus on my vocals, I feel, and just what was really coming out of my mouth, which I really did like about earth. And then wind as well, something quite similar to earth. It's very in control. Like for example, something like fire is very uncontrollable. So whenever I did my monologue, there were times where I kind of blanked because I was speaking too fast. I kind of lost track of myself where I was in my own monologue, and I know the monologue off by heart. But something like wind or earth, it was very much in control, like, oh yeah, it's that way. And I could really just understand what I was really saying to myself. And something like water, I found water quite a tough element, because as well as speaking in the different elements, we were also walking. So for example, when we were walking in fire, we used to imagine like there was fire, there was like jumpings, there was flips, oh my god, it was just very fiery, it was very big. Something like water, in water there was a lot of swaying one side to another. It was very weird, especially with walking. Something like earth was very much just grounded. I absolutely loved earth, just stood in one spot, even though I'm an active person, just stood in absolutely one spot and just done that. And then wind was very similar to water, but unlike water where you're quite out of control, wind is very controlled, I found. And I don't really know why, I just felt very controlled with wind, and I really loved it. So yeah, that was the first thing we did. The second thing we did was duologues, and the duologues we done were from either a Shakespeare or a contemporary monologue. And Ryan, being the kind teacher he is, he gave us a Shakespeare duologue, even though I wanted contemporary. So Ryan, you are probably watching this. Yay. Anyway. So how did that go? So I got put with Lauren again, which is the same partner I got with on Monday, and what happened? So essentially it was a Shakespeare play from, I remember, the characters were Othello and Orpheus. If I can remember the character, I couldn't quite remember I can't quite remember the story it was, but I remember it was between a couple. And the couple, and the couple characters are called Apollo. I think it's Apollo and Orphe. Oh, I can't remember the characters, but it's a man and a woman, and essentially, the man is accusing the woman of cheating on him because the woman is giving her handkerchief, which is like back then it's her, which back then is quite. I assume it's quite an important thing. Her handkerchief to another man, and the husband sees that as quite an insult, and the woman in the end, like the wife in the whole situation, she never actually gives anything away to another person, doesn't even give no handkerchief, but the man doesn't think that. The man is quite an insecure person in a Shakespeare monologue, and it's just quite strange as well, because we didn't have a director, we kind of had to direct ourselves, we had to kind of understand, okay, what's being said here, and plus it's Shakespeare, we don't understand anything Shakespeare says, because that man does not speak English, it's some old dialect that was a thing back then, so yeah, that was something that we had to do, and my PC is not turning off for some reason, which is a bit annoying, but oh well, it is what it is. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly end the reflection and quickly remember what the play was from, and then I'll quickly resume the reflection. Okay, the week 5 reflection again. So we're on Friday. A little bit of a bit of a resume. So the Shakespeare play we done was from the play The Tragedy, where and the scene in particular we were doing was when Othello was questioning his wife Desdemona of giving a handkerchief that he owned to another man called Cassio. Now, Desdemona done nothing wrong. Okay, she didn't do any of that, but Othello is being quite insecure. He doesn't believe her, and he doesn't know why he doesn't believe her, and that's essentially what's being showed in the play. Is being showed in the scene. So what we had to figure out, there was no stage directions, so we kind of had to figure out, me and Lauren, who was the person I was with, what to do in that circumstance, because we had no idea what to do. So we kind of just went through over and over again, like, what we had to do, and we kind of came to a conclusion. So there is conflict towards the end, where there's probably a bit of yelling, likely from me because I'm quite mad, and from her, etc. So yeah, we ourselves, even though we didn't really understand the play 100%, we just kind of had to figure it out, and it was quite a new experience, you know. I did quite enjoy working with Lauren because she is quite creative. There were many times where we just had to just keep going over and over and over and over and over and go over and over and over and over again of what's just like the best thing to do, really, you feel me? But yeah, sorry, brain fog. But other than that, I feel like it went quite well. I feel like it was creative what we did, and something that we noticed as well is something I like to call loss of stage hierarchy. So something that happens in the stage, something that happened in the scene that I didn't actually get at first, I only got it when I watched other people do theirs, is that Othello does some sort of contact to Desdemona. Like, Desdemona loses her stage hierarchy, if that makes sense. Like, she is seen as someone who is below Othello at some point. Now, that could be from anything, you know, that could be from Othello slapping Desdemona on the face to her falling, I don't even know. But from what we saw to other groups, they did include things like slapping and some sort of contact, so me and Lauren kind of saw that. I'm like, okay, we can do something similar. Not exactly hitting or slapping, but something similar. So we came up with the idea that that essentially Lauren, who plays Desdemona, falls at some point. Likely, I kick her to the ground at some point, which is her version of kind of losing her stage hierarchy, where, you know, she's seen as quite pitiful and below Othello, which is something that we kind of devised as well. So yeah, that was quite good. What went well, we worked quite well together, you know, nothing more we could really add. We worked really well together. Nothing worked quite well. We were able to do some research as well into the performance and into the show a little bit, you know, kind of understand what kind of characters I got. I found out that my character's quite insecure and doesn't really trust his wife. Not afraid to use violence, but that in the way that also just shows the kind of time it's set in. But yeah, my character's a bit of a control freak. He's just a little bit of a control freak. And yeah, we were able to figure out that out with some research. and things I could have done better. Understanding Shakespeare, we literally, it was such a small script, but we could not understand a thing because it's Shakespeare. So I need to really just, I need to just do more Shakespeare, like emphasize myself in Shakespeare. Because whenever I do anything Shakespeare, it's always very, very, very short because I just don't understand Shakespeare. So I need to get the lines more on point. Need to really open my eyes up to Shakespeare. That's something I definitely do need to improve on for the future.